Of the season finals here at DreamHack SC2 Masters Summer. Bottom right side, Dragon, Phoenix, Gaming's Rogue.
And in the top left, as the blue Zerg repping Clash, he is Reynor.
No, I don't like to disagree with my good friend Benjamin, because Ben is obviously very on point most of the time, but I actually don't think that these two play a lot at all. Obviously, they had that series at Aces ROG. That one went to distance. It was a 3-2 victory for Reynor. Other than that, they met in a best-of-1 in the War Chest Team League, and that's a fun little asterisk, since Reynor was the best performing player overall in the War Chest Team League. But he had one loss, just one. 14 wins, one loss. That one loss to this man, Rogue. Other than that, they don't meet very often. Like Reynor and Dark, yeah, they've been battling it out quite frequently. But I actually think this is a very unique, cool matchup, since Rogue is just way too cool to participate in small online tournaments, apparently. That's
the problem. He's way too cool to actually participate. But Reynor is participating in quite a few, even some of those weeklies as well, which he says, you know, he's not as much care about it, basically. When it comes to comparing it to a big tournament like this is where Reynor really starts to feel like he has something to prove. He feels the energy, and he just feels excited. And so this DVZ, as we already see, it's not, you know, any early pools. It's on Romana side. This could be the map that we have that nice 20-minute epic battle back and forth, if they let us. But there are so many mind games in ZVZ. That's generally what we see prepped. And between these two, there just really isn't that history to create those elaborate mind games.
Nope. I do remember the last time I think they played on this map. At one point, Rogue just started making Zerglings and never stopped. And Reynor always thought, all right, now he's stopping, he's transitioning, so I can drone. And at one point, Reynor had like a base more and 30 drones more. And Lings were still coming. And it felt that Reynor didn't even know how all-in Rogue really was. Nothing is really what it seems like, and Rogue is already firing up quite a few Zerglings, Zombie Grub.
Ooh.
This is one of these things that, according to the Europeans, this doesn't make sense. You shouldn't do this, because it's very easy for Reynor to hold, but Rogue is capable of making magic happen if he's feeling it. I mean, this is actually kind of all in at this point. I mean, I know it's early, guys, but he's 6 workers behind, and he's building nothing but Zerglings.
And of course, he's hiding them. Like, this isn't an attempt to go and grab that third hatchery of Reynor and then say, ah, mine's now faster because I got to cancel on yours. I mean, this is quite dedicated. Reynor is going to be adding on a Baneling Nest fairly early, pretty much specifically for something like a 2-base Ling all-in. If he has even a couple Banelings ready to go, what if, you know, as he sees his opponent doesn't have his own third hatch, then he should actually be very good in this game. This is a little worrying for me.
I gotta say, I love that Rogue just sent 2 low HP Zerglings in. He's like, oh yeah, don't worry, I'm just scouting, man. Like, I'm not really, you know, I'm not planning anything weird. This is my scout to you, because obviously normally if you want to go for a Zergling flood, you want to cherish every single Zergling. But I have the feeling that the 2 Lings that Rogue just donated almost gave Reynor a false sense of security. But that Baneling Nest is still finishing up. We saw Rogue even faking it with the Roach Warren. None of that matters. What matters now is that Reynor needs to get as many Zerglings as possible. And of course, the Banelings need to get the connections. I gotta say though, the wall of is looking mighty fine. Rogue needs to break through this real quick. Reynor is actually gonna cancel it, because his Banelings already does get a couple of really good connections. I actually feel like this rush is going to end before it ever even truly began.
Yeah, absolutely. And the main base cleared up. Lickety split. Third hatchery is under fire, but 2 more Banelings are left. So even with some really cool micro, I don't think Rogue's going to get anything from this aside from 2 drones, which absolutely is not worth it.
Nope.
Rogue is going to tap out. Okay, there you go. Reynor with a 1-0 start, really abrupt. But I was going to say is that I think Rogue really wanted Reynor to either, of course, not make a Baneling Nest at all, or to cancel it once he saw what was supposed to be more of like, oh, I'm going roaches, I'm going 2-base. But because Reynor kept that alive, that really does shut down a build like that.
Yep. And I do really think that when Reynor gets ready for these best of 5s, he is not planning around the 9-minute mark. He's not planning around the 10-minute mark. He's like, all right, let's make sure early on that nothing weird is happening, because the Korean Zergs, they just like to be a bit more aggressive in general than the European Zergs in the mirror matchup.
Yes, they do. But I would say that even then, like that 2-base all-in is just so... It used to be the thing to do. It certainly is still the thing to do on, like, you know, ladder, but not too often professional games, but that is kind of the point. Sometimes that's when you find Reynor being very, very greedy. but Reynor making the very appropriate call.
Sick timing, by the way, on the canceling of the Evo, right? He's like,
yep.
I know that he's gonna try to get through, and that's when the Banelings finished up. And they obviously got some very juicy connections. I'm with you. I think it's safe to say that we expect more of Rogue in this best of 5, but I'm not too worried. This was only the first game. This was just Rogue's way of potentially dealing that first blow. Maybe he doesn't like Romanticide for some of those longer ZVZs. And he's like, I'm just gonna try to go ahead and get a quick and cheeky first map win. Did not work out, but I know that Rogue has more in store for us.
Yeah, in the same way that it was abrupt, I mean, Rogue was expecting it to be abrupt one way or another. That's a build that he does, and if he gets the win, he's like, aha, I'm already in your brain, gotcha. And if he doesn't, he's like, oh, okay, well, that was clearly an all-in. Like, congratulations on hand, let's go to the next game.
Yeah,
it is almost...
Well done, you know how to build a Baneling nest.
Yeah, exactly.
Very proud of you.
Good skill to have. But yeah, it's almost like a throwaway is like a really strong term, because the best of 5 ever game still does count, but it is kind of like a test. It is a test. You're testing the foreigner.
No, I'm with you. And in the past, we have seen these builds very often work. You know, go back in the history books. You're always like, can Red do it? Can Nurcho do it? You know, you're hyping up all the foreigners. Yes. And then the Koreans were like, nope, we can do it in any shape or form. And we can do it early as well with the all-ins. Obviously, when Zero came around, that became a bit harder. And it seems like Reynor is really getting better in identifying and just preparing in general for some of the weird stuff. So now let's play some proper ZVZ. I want to see some lairs, I want to see some roach fights, or maybe I want to see someone go Muda, but then not really go Muda, but still go Moody. Maybe some Muda versus Corrupted, just anything more than let's go full EU Zerg on the ladder and pocket 24 Zerglings, run them to the other side of the map, and hope your opponent doesn't have Banelings. Yeah,
that was one of the most committed ways to win that game. You know, a lot of these other things that Roddy just gave examples for, like you can kind of mind game the mind game and kind of like wiggle your way out of a bad situation. But that one, that was just a classic all-in, didn't work, and now we're already into game number 2 on Lightshade. In the top left, already down a game, he is Rogue.
Well, it seems like the tables have turned. In the bottom right side of Lightshade, we're looking at the main base of the Italian Stallion, representing Team Clash. It is Reynor. And he is the one going for the 12 pool. Of course, Reynor was the runner-up of the DreamHack SC2 Masters Europe. Clem was the one who won it all. Reynor was second. Of course, Rogue is technically the champ of Korea because he won GSL Season 1. Kodes.
That's true. Yeah, sometimes these times are a little staggered, so it can be kind of weird to remember that. But yeah, absolutely. A Rogue is obviously someone that you can never count out, but I guess Reynor already getting one victory based off a defense of something very aggressive is like, well, what if I just go ahead and also get like a really quick head start in game number 2? Then momentum is entirely on his side. It is looking for a head start, as that is a actual hatchery drone, no drone pool in Lightshade, maybe later on in the series, but let's see if he can find some damage with the Lynx.
Most likely Reynor is just going to try to work on the hatchery and then hope that Rogue either undercommits or maybe overcommits. If he overcommits, let's see if he can get a good trade. This is obviously going to be a little bit tricky because I can only imagine that Rogue has been in this scenario many times. Now Rogue, his spawning pool was about as late as you're ever going to get it when you go hatch first. Also took the gas before the pool. But this is still a song and dance that we've seen a couple of times, and we expect some sexy drone micro out of Rogue.
I mean, the Overlords already see it. Reynor didn't try to hide or anything like that, so Rogue's been holding on to all the larvae that he could. It's going to make Lings, Queens, and pull those drones down. So it's really about how many drones can the Lings get. Already the drones, very weakened, are going to be shy about taking an engagement, more shy than they should be. And actually, they really can't help. They're going to go for it. But again, already so weak, they're forced to retreat.
Oh, no.
One goes down. Many more still weak. But here are Rogue's Lings to try and save the day.
Yep, but the Zergling engagement not perfect actually for Rogue. This is a real disastrous defense if you ask me. 5 drones have already gone down. 8 drones have gone down. And Reynor still has all the Lings. This could actually very well be it. Reynor is now 5 drones ahead and still has these Zerglings. I guess at least the Queen is going to push these Lings away. Rogue just took way too many hits on his drones before he ever started fighting. If he would have just A-moved immediately and Reynor would have ran away, that would have gone better than what he tried to do in the end. Of course, all kudos to Reynor for getting a lot of hits off on the drones that were trailing behind a little bit when he tried to do the drone stacking. But yeah, Rogue needs to handle that better.
Oh my goodness, these Lings even get into Scout. I mean, the Lings are going to pop. The Lings of Reynor, I think, did see him. I think so. And I mean, that's not surprising. Like, Rogue is in a very, very bad position. That is, I mean, one of the least well-handled defenses of an early pool I've seen in a while. And so a counter all-in, or counter dedicated build, whatever you want to say, like that's got to be something that Rogue has to try and do, at least to control the pacing of this game. But Rogue is trying to drone up. He's still down by 9, and Reynor might have slow Lings. He's still going to have a lot.
Yep, Reynor has more than enough. I mean, sure, it's annoying that the Lings of Rogue are fast and the Lings of Reynor are slow, and maybe if we find that drone, but it's safe to say that Rogue needs a whole lot more than a single drone. What I do like about Rogue is that this was maybe his plan to actually go for an all-out Link, but finds another drone. Well done. Obviously, this does mean that the Lings are going to get trapped soon. Reynor's got a buttload of slow Zerglings. You just don't see that very often. I actually think Reynor could go for a slow Zergling counterattack. When you have this many, you may as well put them to use.
I mean, yeah, maybe. Be a little scary as to what Rogue is actually planning behind these forward Lings. The Overlords can only get so far into each other's bases, but Rogue, with that, was either hoping to get some damage done, maybe gets into the main base and causes a lot of chaos, or was really hoping that Reynor would continue to over-defend, but Reynor was pretty quick to going back into building his own drones.
I gotta say though, Reynor did make a lot of Lings. Rogue still found a bit of damage, a drone here, a drone there, a bit of lost mining time. And I think that Reynor at first was like, I think Rogue is just gonna never stop building Zerglings, because that's something a lot of the Korean Zergs have done in the past. When they get 12 pulled, it's like, we have quicker Zergling speed, we just never stop building drones. Or excuse me, Zerglings. And that's obviously super all-in. Reynor was ready for it, but I gotta say, since Reynor maybe over-defended a little bit, the one advantage Reynor still has here is that he has more Zerglings out on the map, but Rogue has made this look like much more of a game than it was 45 seconds ago.
The other thing that Reynor has going for him is that he's already using his money for some investments. Like, he did have the better economy. He still does, even though it's dramatically decreased. But it's already being invested into a lot of stuff. His speed is finishing up. His +1 missile is already on the way. His third hatch, about equally timed, but all of the upgrades, the transition into roaches, it's going to be a lot smoother for Reynor. And actually, Rogue's out on that +1 Carapace, only going for Ling Banelings so far. The Banelings are here to hopefully save his third hatch. Seems to be the case. I'm not sure Reynor can actually... well, some missed micro happening. You do need 2 Banelings to pop a Baneling, actually. So Rogue seems like he's going to barely be able to handle this. That's
a really good micro there, picking off that last Baneling. And this also means a Queen went down. Reynor has been able to run a couple of Zerglings into the main base. He's potentially going to morph those into Banelings. It's just very difficult for Rogue to handle all of this perfectly, because he had to cut a couple corners to get back into this game. He was that far behind. I don't know if he picked up on these 2 Zerglings sneaking into his main base. It seems like he does know, but I actually think one of the Bane is going to finish up. Yeah, Rogue knows it. Yeah.
So, one will go down, which means they can't one-shot drones anymore. It's not really a big threat. The only big threat, actually, is if Reynor's Lings get into the main base as well, and now can, almost one-shot, yeah. The very, very weakened drones, not quite. A 2-shot with this number of Lings means that 3, 4, 5 drones go down in the blink of an eye.
Yeah, poor Rogue. It's obviously very, very hard not to take any damage here. It seems like Rogue is just gearing up for a big all-in off-hatchery attack. He's firing up quite a few roaches. That Carapace is on the way. Our Korean Zerg, the GSL champ, is down 20 workers, which means he needs to end this game in the next minute or so. But Reynor is already building his own defensive roaches. I think Rogue is going to tap out before his units even make it to the other side of the map.
I'm kind of concerned that's going to happen. Even though Reynor has managed to get to almost a 20-worker lead, the time at which they started building an army was basically the same. So Reynor's going to have the same army, better actually, and there it is. Another kind of, anticlimactic ending, but Reynor up 2-0 against the GSL champ. Wow.
Yep. And he's making it look easy. Actual game time at this point, 8 minutes.
I was gonna guess, like, how many minutes have we actually been casting right now? Not very long. Perhaps even more one-sided than our last series.
Yep, and I did not see that one coming. I don't think many of you guys did, even though a lot of people in Twitch did vote in favor of Reynor. Rogue is not someone I want to count out, but he's just going to have to clean up the play. Like that first game, like you said, all right, you can try it, whatever. That second game, there is almost no excuse. Of course, these games are still being played online, and that just kind of sucks for both players, but we have seen much better 12-pull defenses. Like, you can see a couple of drones are trailing behind, and Reynor gets a lot of free hits off. Did that incredibly well, but that's a lot of hits. At this point, I was already concerned for Rogue. I'm like, whoa, a lot of your drones are low on HP. He ate a few more hits. I felt like this was never going to be a good fight. And then when the links actually come from Rogue, he takes the fight, where it feels like it's 6 Zerglings for him, while Reynor's got like 9 or 10 Zerglings tapping away immediately. Unfortunately, we just lost that part, but that's kind of what decided the game.
You know what's also interesting and unfortunate for Rogue is that was the West server game.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's we're going back to Central for our third game. But before we do that, we are going to head to a quick break, and when we return, we'll see if Reynor can close it out or if Rogue can bring it back. Welcome back, everyone. We have not quite the series we were hoping for. Rogue's already down 2 games against Reynor in probably under 30 minutes, I would say. 1 all-in from Rogue, and that didn't go well. Fair enough, that happens. But then a pretty poor defense against a 12-pull in the next game that Reynor just played out the rest of the game to perfection and easy win. So let's see what game 3 is going to look like.
I'm going to quote you on what you said before the camera was on us. You said, Protoss died for this, Zombie Grub. And that probe is still upset about what you did to her the other day. All right, let's hope we get some longer games, and let's hope that this man can show us what he's truly made of. Without a doubt, one of the best Zerg players of all time, our Korean Zerg, Dragon Phoenix Gaming's Rogue.
Cheeky boy in the top right, already going for a 12 pull. Once again, we have Reynor.
Well, you mentioned that the previous game was played on the US West server, which always favors the Korean players a little bit, and this one is on the US Central server, and that favors the European players a bit. Now, Reynor might look at that as like, if that was your defense on US West, I really wonder how you're going to deal with it on US Central. Now, Juggernaut and Lightshade, actually not that different, right? When it comes to rush distance, main base to main base, it's about that even?
I think it's 2 seconds difference.
Okay.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's of course, using the acceleration zones in the middle, but that is usually where the path is taken. So it is going to be a slightly slower attack from Reynor, but nonetheless looking to get an early lead. Because honestly, guys, like that last game, 8 drones was shocking to lose. 4 drones would have already been a slip-up from Rogue. So if he can still get that here, then Reynor's going to be happy.
Yep, Reynor is already rallying the Zerglings towards the bottom side. The Overlord is going to give Rogue the heads up that this is happening once more. I have to admit, I'm not that big of a fan of like immediately stacking drones in the pocket. I actually prefer to just see them kind of pretend to fight, then not fight, pretend to fight. Because you know that if the drones are down to the, early enough, you're never going to lose that hatchery. And I don't think Rogue was in any danger of losing his hatchery. But let's see how Rogue goes about it this time. The defense needs to be cleaner. It's very important that his drones don't take too many unnecessary hits early on. He's going for a similar defense again, but this time at least the Lings of Reynor not getting too many hits off. Reynor wants to take the fight now. This is obviously before the Zerglings of Rogue are out.
This is not too bad. I mean, not taking nearly as much damage means that when they do engage with their own Lings, the drones could be pulled back in time to not die, because that's just like was so impossible about last game, was microing very, very weak drones. This time it's a lot better, but Reynor's still looking for a couple more kills. Gonna take the fight again, and the drone drill from Rogue. He loses 2 drones. That's acceptable.
Yep, this is a night and day difference, guys. And that's something that Rogue can show us in the same tournament and apparently in the same best of 5. And this time it should have been harder. This server is a little bit worse for him than the one of the previous game. You can see Rogue clearly knowing where he slipped up this time. I love what he was doing with the drones. He was threatening. This is actually super good defense, but it's not just like, oh, it's all right. No, he killed all 12 Zerglings and only lost 2 drones. Much, much better position for Rogue to be in. And I think for all of us StarCraft fans, we're kind of happy to see this, right? Whether you're cheering for Reynor or Rogue, you want to see these guys really push each other to the limit in the semifinals. And at least now Reynor's going to have to work for it.
Yeah, now Reynor has to work for this game. It's not atrocious for him. Like, last game really was an anomaly as far as 12 pulls go, but it's something where he's the one that's going to be making maybe the trickier, riskier decisions, and Rogue can feel very confident. Some Lings just spending as much time in the main to be bothersome, to check out any early build decisions. For instance, Reynor could be building Evolution Chamber right now, as Rogue is. Reynor is not, however, and we'll actually see him, I guess, jump over to that 3rd hatch a bit faster, too.
Yep. I really wonder if Reynor didn't make it into the main base of Rogue last game on Lightshade, if Rogue would have ever stopped building Zerglings. Because I didn't have the feeling that was his plan. Because when you make that many Lings of a 12 drone economy, he was obviously in a really bad spot. I really had the feeling that his intention was to just end it. But then Reynor scouted it and he's like, well, damn it. I guess I tried to turn this into a game. But I think Rogue already knew that he was super far behind. We have our first actual quick lair of the series. Of course, Reynor did have a lair on Lightshade, but that one wasn't totally fair because he was so damn far ahead. This one is actually a strategic lair, and I'm happy to see it.
So there was a big delay on Reynor's 3rd hatch, which wasn't going to be faster than Rogue, actually. Rogue took it pretty fast, but now it was like really slower. So Rogue knows the intention to take the hatchery. He knows that he's not going to be attacked soon. His Lings have been hanging around a long time, and he's got Overlords. And he knows he can get away with this, but Reynor actually not adding on a Roach Warren whatsoever. Evolution Chamber and Baneling Nest for him, and a lot of Lings being stacked up, but does go back into droning.
I almost feel that Reynor is going to fire up missile attacks. Then I kind of wonder why he got the Baneling Nest.
Yeah, well, Reynor has not seen Rogue's side of the map in a while, so he might just be guessing at what Rogue is doing. I mean, even if you do see a Roach Warren and Evolution Chamber on the front lines, there is always that chance that they are actually building 50 Lings in the main. There's just so many things that can be hidden in ZVZ. But yeah, with the pretty much defensive play here from Reynor. If he doesn't do damage with them, he could fall behind just tech-wise, as his lair only just now starts.
Yep, obviously it's nice for Reynor to have a couple of Zerglings out, and you can buy some time. You can maybe pick off a Roach that's lost, but looking at the armies at this point, Rogue is just holding down the Roach button. He's gonna fire up a couple of drones now, but I think even all the Roaches he has out and about on the map, if Roach speed finishes up and he starts being aggressive with it, I know it's a bit tricky to have enough units at home and at the other side of the map at the same time. But Rogue could have been in a really good spot, but I do feel it's important he needs to make up his mind. Because he made so many units, and at that point I'm like, Rogue, are we attacking or are we macroing? What is it going to be?
Yeah, I'm also a little... I think there's a couple of like microsecond decisions going on here back and forth, but Rogue did not have a lot of drones, made too many Roaches to defend what was only a handful of Lings, and thus has actually been behind in economy for quite some time. Reynor, you know, he didn't need that Bailey Nest, sure, but his droning was a lot better.
I really felt that Rogue could have been far ahead and that Rogue maybe should have been far ahead. And now instead, it's actually looking a bit more dire. Seems like Rogue is going to test the waters and he is going to stand all the Roaches he currently has out on the map. And Reynor is immediately going to try to counterattack. No, Rogue left plenty of Roaches behind, so maybe he was just looking for Zerglings. It's so unfortunate because it felt like Rogue could have gone up to 60 drones and still have more Roaches than Reynor.
Yeah.
Now instead he made the mistake that a lot of us make when we play Zerg. We're like, oh, we're so worried what our opponent is going to do. So you make too many defensive units, but he let the lead slip away in this game. Yeah,
exactly. You know, if you look at the army size graph, I mean, the spike there for Rogue is basically unnecessary. Like, he didn't have to do that. Could have gone back in the, could have had and kept the economic advantage. Either way, the game does go on as Rogue invests into 2-1, so he's got his upgrade lead still intact, and Reynor just with an Evolution Chamber. So yeah, actually just going to play with one Evolution Chamber. Great Overseer Scout, seeing everything, 4th base timings, gas timings, Evolution Chambers, both of them working, and the Overseer apparently even going to live.
Yep. I don't think Reynor wants to drop a second Evo now. I think it's a little bit too late to really get anything out of it. He already has his +2 missiles on the way. I mean, I always wonder how many Ravages we're gonna make, because you don't just want to max out on Roaches, because then if your opponent is in a strong defensive position and they drop Corrosive Bow, it's not all about the bows that connect, it's more about you pushing your opponent away. Because if Roaches are trying to split all the time and run back to avoid the Corrosive Bows of the Ravages, that obviously means that they're shooting and you lose a lot of DPS. It seems like Rogue is the first one to get a couple of Ravages, and Reynor is going to have to pull off something really special if he truly believes he can find a lot of damage here. Maybe it's a distraction maneuver. Hey, here are my Roaches, surprise, and now Zerglings jump on top of the drones. But Rogue is ready for that.
Yeah, I think 100% that's what it was. Reynor is not anticipating having the better or stronger army, so but he can move out on the map and safely return home. So if you can at least push off their potential attack by a few seconds, if you can get your Lings in there, then fantastic. But it is about Rogue's attack. His 2-1 is finishing, and he is maxed out, going for the attack. He's going right into Reynor's 4th base. The Lings find some success on the reinforcements, but Reynor, with very few Ravagers of his own, could find this defense difficult. Of course, down at least 1 upgrade as well, if not 2. Rogue actually wrapping around. Reynor takes the fight, though, on the left side first.
Wow.
So maybe he can take the right side as well. That would be the ideal for our Italian Zerg. And it might be enough from Rogue. It's actually a surround from him, but are the numbers there to actually successfully complete this fight?
I think the fight was a lot better for Reynor, but obviously he is down 2 upgrades, and the upgrades are really starting to shine. So in the end, Rogue is going to be the one cleaning up this army in the center. We are still fighting on Reynor's side of the map, so he's going to have slightly quicker reinforcements. I'll tell you, if that wasn't the +2 advantage or 2 upgrade advantage, I really don't think that would have worked out. I think Reynor made the best of it, but he's still kind of outnumbered, and Rogue is just holding down that Roach button. He's still down 10 workers, but who gives a damn if you're up 12 Roaches and your Roaches are on the other side of the map, getting on top of the Queens, getting on top of the reinforcements of Reynor. Reynor, his +2 missile attacks is about to finish up, but I think Rogue just has a few too many units left over.
I think so. Maybe the drones, could be pulled at the last second, but I don't think it's going to be enough as Reynor loses more of his Roaches. He's still down an upgrade as well, so it's not like he's got a lot of better quality of units. Rogue hitting at exactly the right time, looking for that 2-1 attack, finds success in it. If Reynor had been able to buy more time with a choke with Corrosive Biles, then it's actually a hold. Rogue is still struggling to, I guess, end this game, he has evened up the economy and still holds the army lead.
Yep, but obviously he needs to make sure that he doesn't lose 7 or 8 roaches for nothing now, because he is fighting inside of the reinforcements of Reynor. Pretty impressive that Reynor managed to stabilize there in the end. Getting all those roaches coming in from 4 hatcheries, different angles. Well, gave him a couple of good fights. He's gonna morph some of his low HP roaches into Ravagers, but Rogue is gonna do the exact same thing. And even though Rogue does have a 4th hatchery himself, Rogue is very set on just ending this game and sending us to game 4.
Yeah, he's at least going to grab the 4th base. That's kind of an easy free pick-off. So if they both drone up eventually, I guess, it's going to be much better for Rogue, or even just honestly if they transfer drones. So Rogue's already mining from his 4th. Still has that Carapace upgrade, something that Reynor just really can't invest into. Right now for Reynor, it's all about, I'd say, getting a lot of Ravagers, holding on to your chokes with Corrosive Biles, and then trying to wiggle your way out of the Roach game. But that is very difficult to do. Rogue setting up an amazing surround once again, 2 different angles. Let's see if Reynor can hold on yet again in game number 3. Of course, Rogue looking for his first victory in the series. Might just be finding it right here, right now.
Yep, I think the numbers still in favor of Rogue. Most of the Reynor's roaches are gone. That means Rogue could have gotten on top of the Ravagers, and that is going to do it. Rogue with just a much better defense. Early game against the 12-pool opening of Reynor will end it. Felt like maybe the drone roach thingy was a little bit off, because he made a lot of roaches early on, then he went back into droning. But hey, once he went for it, he still got the job done. Timing, upgrade-wise, I think absolutely perfect. Like the +2 missile attacks of Reynor halfway done. Rogue was not gonna wait for that. I gotta say, the way that he set up that big fight with the acceleration zone, it looked very flashy with a couple of units on the right side and then the other units swinging around from the top left. But I don't even think that really worked out. I think it's the upgrades that really won him the fight and not the engagement.
Yeah, I think what actually would have been perfect there for Rogue is that Reynor isn't as aggressive as he is. Then he really does have a surround that's perfectly timed. But because Reynor was like, wait a second, I can take on that left side, I'm going to engage there first. The surround was awkwardly timed. But, you know, 2 upgrade lead, I mean, that really does push through. I mean, maybe some little bit of micro here was cool from Reynor as well, making sure to target fire some of these Ravagers. But yeah, 2 upgrades is huge. Had Reynor been able to just stay up behind a choke and buy time, maybe he has his own +2, then he could take a fight like he did there. But no, that was perfectly timed from Rogue, using his advantage to actually end the game.
And what I do like as well is that even in the end, when he obviously was ahead economically, still ahead in the upgrades, and he took out one of the hatcheries, he's like, no, I'm not going to do the win ahead. I'm going to get further ahead, and I'm going to make this game weird. He's like, I'm not going to give you the chance to max out. I still think my army is better now. Let's go ahead and end it. And I got to say, I think that's a wise decision against the likes of Reynor and Cyril, because those guys have a lot of experience playing ultra late game ZVZ. They're excellent with Lurkers and Vipers. We've seen plenty of comebacks of those 2 European Zergs. So I kind of like that Rogue just pulled the trigger there and went for it.
Yeah, I mean, not only is it scary to face Reynor in those late game scenarios, but also just, this is the killer instinct that we always compliment, you know, the Korean Zergs on, basically. They know when and how to end a game. Apparently, Reynor likes this build. In the bottom right of Blackburn for game 4. Once again, going for the 12th pool, he is Reynor.
And that, of course, means that in the bottom left side of Blackburn, we're looking at the main base of the man who lost his first 2 games in this tournament, then won 7 in a row, then lost 2, but now he's won 1 again. Can he win 7? It is Rogue. That would mean he'd become a champ, Zombie Bro.
Yeah?
Yeah,
Okay.
2 more here.
Then
He
4
already has
more.
1, 3, and then 4 in the grand finals.
That makes sense.
That'd be one hell of a run. Imagine starting 0-2, then going 7-0, then going 0-2, and then going 7-0 again.
It'd be pretty sick. But is he going to do it? Rogue's actually going for a gold base expansion on this map, which is going to make this 12th pool even weirder. I'm not actually sure how this is going to work, because, I mean, Reynor's going to see no hatchery in Rogue's natural and be like, oh, shoot, did I miss, like, his own 12th pool? Wait, no, I would have seen the lings, right?
Maybe Reynor has done his homework and he knows that Rogue likes to take the hatch first at the gold, and if the lings run there immediately, Rogue is not going to be able to save that with his drones, will he?
Yeah, that's the thing, though. Like, I think we're going to see immediately if this is a homework thing or it's going to have to be a reaction thing. If it's a reaction, if the lings into the natural and go, wait a second, hold on here, I feel like that pause is enough for Rogue to handle it. Nice hide there. But if he goes straight for the gold, then of course there's nothing that Rogue can do about it. So far, hidden Rogue. I mean, even if he knew about it, wouldn't be able to build anything quite yet. Reynor heading towards the natural. So now he's going to be like, okay, hold on, what is this?
Maybe he peeks. It goes immediately towards the gold, though. And this is indeed going to be really awkward. Now, the spawning pool is done for Rogue. Obviously, when this hatchery is not done yet.
Yeah.
Gonna let it finish up. He is confident that he can hold. Where are the drones? Are the drones already being pulled?
No.
He's gonna sacrifice it by the looks of it.
Yeah, I really don't think you can pull drones against this. Like, the only way this is gonna work out for Rogue is if Reynor was like, wait, what's happening? And then kind of like waffle between natural and main. But Reynor, like, actually just as soon as he saw there was no hatchery, went towards the gold. And this means that his build works out pretty darn perfectly. So now Rogue, what's he do? Takes his natural, but it's much later.
And will he Zergling flood? Let's not forget that that was kind of his initial plan, I think, on Lightshade until it gets scouted. Now, Reynor actually gets a low surface area on this hatchery. Cannot go all the way. Rogue needs to buy some time. Rogue's still building Zergling, Zombie Grub.
I think this is something that Reynor really is going to be aware of. Like, he doesn't want to take a bad fight or maybe even a fight at all. He wants to buy time and then check, hey, are you just going to build Lings and more Lings? Because then I might need to build a few more as well. He saw the drone leave. I guess it still can be a question if it's actually real.
Yep. But I think the moment that Rogue gets scouted, he's like, all right, now I'm actually just going to expand again. Now I'm going to build drones. He just makes it really hard for Reynor to figure out what is actually happening. Reynor is still just building drones at home, so he doesn't seem to be too concerned about all these Zerglings that are about to have Zergling speed. Reynor doesn't have that many units at home, Zombie Grub.
No, he actually had a lot of Lings in the main base of Rogue, which did try and dip in and kill a couple of drones, but
I think Reynor could be in some trouble here.
He might be. He might just be. Rogue speed finishes, so this is becoming really lethal. He cleans up the few Lings that Reynor even had, and Reynor is forced to evacuate his natural. He does have 3 queens. A little bit of a wall supporting him as well, and this, I mean, he'll hold, but this does make the whole army drone favorable for Rogue, because he can kind of read the situation a bit better.
And let's not forget that Rogue does already have that gold base on the way again. Could potentially transfer a couple of drones to that one as well. Reynor is now the one who's forced to make 10 extra Lings. And with that many extra Lings in the way, I almost have the feeling that Reynor now really wants to make some chaos happen on the other side of the map. And these are the kind of ZVZs that I signed up for. Reynor does trap a few of these Lings. Rogue needs to be careful because now he's losing a lot of the Lings that he needs to rebuild pretty much immediately. Because at this point, it's the Italian Zerg who's got way more Zerglings.
That is the amazing ebb and flow of ZVZ, isn't it? So Rogue's going to buy a lot of time in the main base, a lot of scouting done in the main base, and then eventually get cleaned up, yes, but is he going to read any follow-up correctly? Already transferring a ton of drones to his gold base.
I had no idea that Reynor's Zergling speed was that late.
I
thought it was like, oh, it's going to finish up near soon, so there's obviously not too much that Reynor can do with all those Lings that he made. Maybe Reynor was concerned that Rogue still had a couple of extra units coming in behind this. Rogue is going to fire up 14, 16 Lings at this point. Reynor's Zergling speed still not done. Rogue is also going to be one with slightly earlier Baning Nest. Did Reynor still have those 2 Lings, by the way, in the main base of Rogue, or did those already reveal themselves?
I think they revealed themselves. This is such a funny game, but now Rogue with a lot of Lings on the way. Speed already being done, obviously. Once again, distracting in the main base. I mean, this could be really difficult for Reynor to hold. He has 15 Lings to Rogue's 26, and Rogue has more on the way, but Banelings available for both. Now it's about having your units in the right position, because Reynor's trying to match the gold base. Banelings actually forming again at the perfect time!
Oh my goodness.
Oh, damn. All right, second time, Rogue. Mistimed.
I gotta say, Reynor also lost a lot of Zerglings there. Maybe not as many as Rogue did, but Reynor ended up losing 8 or so to that single Baneling. Very unfortunate, of course, for Rogue, because there was real potential to take a great fight there, potentially get a cancel on that hatchery.
This is such a funky game. Rogue is winning slightly in the economy because he transferred his drones to the gold so much faster. He's also out on a Roach Warren. Reynor taking a fight that he really wasn't supposed to win. The concave looks a little better for Rogue, but here comes Reynor's Baneling. I know, Rogue has his own finishing.
What's happening in the gold base of Rogue?
A little bit of a scuffle. A couple of units apparently got up there. Not too much, though, to distract. And now Rogue is going to be building those roaches, looking for a hatchery tech attack. I mean, there's been so many attacks, but once again, he is going to be the aggressor. And Reynor's Roach Warren now is the structure in question. It's the upgrade in question.
This is super awkward, I think, for both players.
It is.
And if Reynor can just tuck away a couple of Zerglings in the top left side, morph those into Banelings, run them into the gold, I feel like there's a lot of potential. Rogue just wants to go for the natural. These Banelings are still on HP. Can the Queens get some shots off? The answer is yes. Good defense. MVP Queen there for Reynor.
So funny. First speed was in question, now the roach timing's in question. Rogue continuing to apply the pressure as well. The Queen just tried a body block? Is that what she's trying to do? But then misses the focus fire. So the two still go off on 6 drones. Main base now under threat as well. And this is actually important too for Reyna's larva. Reynor has a lot of minerals stacked up, but then hits the gold base of Rogue. It's just chaos every which way I look. But it's Reynor who's so much later to adding on these roaches. That's what's most concerning. He does get an amazing wraparound though on Rogue's Ravagers. And I guess he's kind of making the hold happen. Doesn't even need roaches.
And this is going to be really awkward now for Rogue, because these roaches obviously cannot just go home. Can he save a few more roaches by morphing them into Ravagers? One of them is going to try. The second one actually morphs into a Ravager too. Really good saves there by Rogue. Maybe Reynor getting a little over-ambitious after getting a couple of good pickups early on. Reynor, his army supply is still quite a bit smaller, but he's got a lot of extra units. And obviously this is from Hatchery Tag, not Lair. So the reinforcements of Rogue are going to be a little bit slower.
This is such a funny game. Reynor now has +1 Carapace during these engagements. His Lings come in from behind to help try and take out those Ravagers. Even the Queen supporting just a little bit as Rogue, starting to lose out on that army supply, is now in a very dangerous position because, well, he's actually just out of the game. There it is. Reynor takes out Rogue. 3